Yeah, the annuity word is a big word in retirement, and more and more I see people asking us about it. I see these people on TV and websites saying they're bad, they're good, they're ugly. So let's talk about annuities. It can be a super important part of retirement if you use the right ones. So I think that's what's important is when you're talking about annuity. There's so many different annuities out there, and it's what I've seen over the 30 years. I mean, it's amazing what we have today compared to what we had a couple decades ago. It's just night and day. So really what I want to get into and ask you, David, we're talking about the main types of annuities, because I think the first thing people need to understand, they're not all made the same. Not all vehicles are made the same. Not all TVs, cameras, phones, they're all different. So if we're talking about the word annuity, let's try to identify the main ones that we're talking about in retirement. And I know there's a general one called a fixed annuity. Then you have a variable annuity. Then you have what's called a MIGA, multi-year guaranteed annuity. You have a SPIA, which is a single premium immediate annuity. This can all get very confusing, especially for somebody who just wants to retire and go on cruises and relax, go to the Blue Angels show, whatever. So David, what do you tell me a little bit about these different type of annuities?
It's funny you bring all of them up, because you don't hear a lot of those terms a lot of the times, because all you hear is the word annuity, Steve. That's all you hear. And it's funny to me, because someone going to school for this stuff, in my actuarial models class, doing the proofs and the formulas inside of these things, they're very, very complex, and it's hard to break that down to just a normal person. It really is, because it's like showing someone how to do a math problem that they've never seen, right? It's the same difference. So really, it doesn't matter what type of annuity it is. One might seem easier than the other one to understand. They're all difficult to understand and have different riders and complex cases, and also different strategies as well, which I think every single one has a different part in retirement, which is so funny because, with the just word of the annuity in general, it's been around since 1802, right? I mean, these things have been around forever.
So yeah, let me throw out a number to you, David. I mean, being in this business, we track it. I mean, 2024 was a third consecutive year of record deposits and annuities. I mean, I think we hit LIMRA, which is a organization that does studies on life insurance and sales and marketing. And they said there was over $434 billion of new to premium deposits into annuities last year, all-time record. And it was 13% higher than 2023. So, the elephant in the room, they're out there, and people are inquiring about them. People are talking bad about them, good about them. What's causing all this stir and all this frenzy of putting money into annuities?
Right. I'll have to correct you on one thing. That's actually in the fixed index annuity. So that's not just in annuities in general. So there's more money than just $434 billion. The fixed index world is crazy right now. And I think the biggest cause of the mass, people getting into annuities is because of the retirement cycle, the wealth generation, right? The biggest wealth generation in the United States we've ever had in the world, right? The boomers. And everyone wants to talk about it, and no one wants to really, find out what's going on. We talked about earlier, there's 8 million people this year, over 8 million people turning 65 years old in the United States. That is absolutely insane when you think about retirement. It really is. So when it dials down to it, there's got to be a way, right, for someone to retire without having all their money in one asset. Steve, we talk about it all the time, and I'm sure you've seen on my seminar presentations sometimes. I like a lot of charts. I do a lot of graphs and data. I don't like a lot of words, right?
I call you the spreadsheet man.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing I always pull up first, my first slide, is the retirement pyramid. And why I think the basics of retirement pyramid are so important. Because the majority of people that are retiring are doing the opposite of what the retirement pyramid actually says to do. Right? The top of that retirement pyramid is supposed to have stocks, bonds, CDs, and mutual funds. Steve, can you take a guess how many retirees have the majority of their funds in the stock market?
Well, most of them do. And that's where I think you're seeing a transition here in, my experience, like I was mentioning about the pension world, what I've seen over the, let's go back to what an annuity is. If we can go back there, David, what is the principle of an annuity? I mean, what is the meaning of it? If you want to go back there, and you'll see kind of where I'm leading up to.
Yeah, I think it's really hard now to talk about what an annuity is because it can do so many different things. And I think it's confusing. Now, the definition of an annuity in the mathematical world is just a series of payments. That's it. A lump sum, a series of payments. And it's not just that nowadays, right? It's basically like a transformer. We transform these things into magnificent assets, and in financial vehicles that we can actually use in retirement, whether it's tax deferring options, whether it's growth with security without risks of loss. There's so many different ways that we can actually use these things for benefiting in retirement other than just a series of payments. And I think that's all people think about, right? Especially a lot of advisors out there is, they're just for income. They're just for income. And that's not at all now what they're just for, right? And Steve, I mean, I'm going to put this back on you because you've been in the business for 31 years. Back when you first started, what were these things used for?
Well, the funny thing is, really back when I started, there was never even an index annuity. It was mainly an alternative to a bank CD to try to earn higher interest, to capitalize in the tax deferral. And then we had what's called a SPIA, where people needed income, they would give up their money to the insurance company, and then they would get a series of payments to supplement their income. So if you look at, where it's come 3 decades later, it's so different now. You look at these index annuities came out, and there was a reason for that. And there's a popularity for the index annuity, especially in retirement, because it eliminates the risk of the market, but you can still capitalize on some of the gains of the market. So that's perfect in the retirement world. We didn't have that years ago. If you look at a SPIA, a lot of people were negative on them now because my mother or my grandmother gave money to an insurance company, got payments, and then when they died, there was nothing left. So they were sour on that. So if you look at it now, they've evolved so much. There's so much different. I don't know what the number is in Alabama and Florida, but I know it's over 3,000 different annuities a consumer can go out and purchase. 3,000. When we ask people that, you've seen it, we ask people, how many you think you can choose from? They say 100, 50, 10. Some people say 1,000. There's over 3,000 different annuities. So you're going to have your good, your bad, and your ugly. But the reason there's so many is because now, like you said, you can use them for so many different parts of your life, whether it's retirement, whether you're younger and you've maxed out your, deferral in your 401k and you want to put money into the market and have gains without, worrying about taxes. But in retirement, they serve, mainly a couple of key purposes.